else is on the committee?
Yeah, I know, that's what
Who?
I'm gonna heckle a lady.
Leo and who? Then who else? Richie Dell is not coming?
I don't think so. Oh, really? Yeah, so it should be quick and easy. Oh, good.
Set it up. All right, this is the Committee on Government Operations. This is Monday, October 19, 2015. We're at 6 p.m. I have Councilor Scudder.
Here.
I have Councilor Pang.
Here.
And I have Councilor Capone.
Here.
We have 3 members, we do have a quorum.
Standard salute the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, read the first
All right,
item.
the first piece of business is a resolution up by Council McKinnon that the Health Department Director appear before the committee to discuss the West Nile virus.
There is somebody here.
We have notification that Leo McKinnon is going to be out. He has an emergency with his child. So we'll lay that on the table if you could get a motion on that.
Mr. Chairman, if we could first, we do have someone that's here that I know the good counsel could not make it, but we do have somebody that did show up. I don't know if it's possible. I mean, I have no problem laying it over, but out of respect to the person that showed up, I mean, if it's just an informational piece, and then we could possibly just, update Council McKinnon on, what happened with it, whatever and so forth, then instead of laying it in committee.
Yeah,
Because
if
we do have
she
somebody
took
here.
the time to come here, why not let her speak? Of course. Would you give your name and address and so on, please?
Is this on? Oh, okay. I'm Elaine Silver. I'm the interim director and the nursing supervisor for the Everett Health Department. Just to bring you up to a great little bit of a good news and bad news. Mosquito season is now over. We've experienced our very first low temperatures. Just to explain to you, here in Everett, we use what we call the Larvicide program. These are tiny brick-like substances that are dropped into the catch basins in the city. It is all cleared through our mosquito control program, which is Middlesex, and also through our sewer and the water department. They notify them when they're coming to make sure there's no cleaning going on. These little larvicide bricks, which we've been using for the 15 years that I have been here. What happens is mosquitoes like to lay their eggs in water, and the catch basins or the sewers that we have are a large area where mosquitoes can go. Once these are put in, the cover is put back over and it is marked accordingly so that we know what has been done and what hasn't been done, and that the city is aware of it so they will not go in and do any cleaning of the catch basins. We have traps that are set in the city. We have 2 of them, one at the north end and one at the south end of the city. They're checked twice a year, in July and in August, by the state. Mosquitoes are collected. This year, there were a high number of West Nile virus positive mosquitoes. We only had 1 here in Everett, which is not uncommon. We have many a year, 1. What happens is May, as the health department, we do a public service announcement, in which we did this year over ECTV, which we go on and remind residents not only of mosquito, but of ticks and of sun to get them ready for the season. When we had this alert that we did have, what happens is the state has a monitoring system that we're notified through the local health departments. We get what we call an arbovirus report every week, and it explains to us where any kind of positive mosquito is found. What happens is that if, say, there's one in Chelsea, it's the surrounding communities. So what happens is, like, there's 14, 15 communities that are alerted, and this is always released to the press. So people just tend to panic. We may not have it, but unfortunately, it's in our area. As I say to them, we're not Gotham City that we can throw a net over and protect it. We did a robocall through the city, through the health department, and advised residents of the positive West Nile virus that we did find here in Everett, and told them how to take their own precautions. We also repeated the call again later on in the summer when there were 3 or 4 other communities surrounding us also had positive for West Nile virus. And residents still, we have to have 3 days of below like 32 degrees, according to the weathermen, to have a freeze. As of today, the state has stopped testing. They'll be not testing any more mosquito traps because it's considered we've had a freeze, that we've killed them. But residents still have to be a little bit diligent and remember to make sure your screens are all repaired in your homes. You do watch what you're doing at night. Don't go out, in late activities in case there's a few more around, and who knows, maybe we'll have a sudden little heat wave or something like that. But we have been doing the larvicide program, like I say, for 15 years. We've had very, very good results with it, and we intend on having it again next year.
Thank you very much. That
You-
was very informative.
You're welcome, anytime.
Do we still,
Do you have any questions? No?
Customary things.
no, do we still want to lay this over the table? You think that we got the information out? We have to? Yeah, I don't
Yes.
believe we have to lay it over on the table where we got this
Refer it back to
information.
the commit, out to the, yes, that's what, I would make that motion then, and then we could certainly, update, Council McKinnon on, what the information that was provided, so I just make a no recommendation out to City Council.
I guess if there's any additional questions, you could always,
Yeah.
voice them, so. Okay.
Make a motion, we just,
So moved, Mr.
thank you very
Chairman.
much. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Thanks again.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Clerk, read item number 2.
Item number 2. This is a resolution brought by Council Frank Capone that the city review the snowplow procedures. Actually, this should be snow shovel.
Well, yeah, snow shoveling, snow plowing, the whole 9 yards.
Yes, Councilor Capone?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's that time of year again. So whoever we have for the various departments, if they could please come forward.
Please give your name and your position, please. Thank you. I don't know who that fella is there, but I still would like to.
All right. Frank Nuzzo, Director of Code Enforcement.
Kevin O'Donnell, Chief of Staff.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr.
Brad.
Chairman. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. As you know, it's the season, and we actually got a couple flurries the other night. And before we get too deep into the winter, I just wanted to touch base on a couple of things. Mr. Donnell, are you going to be relaying this back to DPW? or-
Yes.
Okay, great. First of all, they did a wonderful job last season, given the magnitude of the snow, much better than any surrounding community. There were some issues from a snow plowing, snow removal point of view that I just wanted to make sure that we were on top of before the season started. The issues were making sure that the bus stops were cleared out because many people were in the middle of the street, making sure we took extra care to clear handicap spots. The contractors, and I'm sure this is stuff that it's all standard, but I just want to make sure that, we don't leave any stone unturned. We want to make sure that the contractors, when they're operating for the city and they're plowing for the city, the blades go down to the ground. I know people don't want to put the blades in the ground because it potentially causes damage, but if the blade's out on the ground, we leave a sheet of ice and it's worse than it was with the snow there. And then the only other thing with regards to snow plowing is that one of the issues that we had, and probably because there's nowhere to put the snow, is when we got to the intersections where 2 streets merged, we had a huge snow pile. In vehicle, the operators of vehicles could not see someone on the other side, and we had some issues there. So those are all things that I did bring to the DPW's attention over the course of the last winter, and they did address every one of them as I requested them to, which I really appreciate, but if we can get ahead of it, we won't have to worry about it. So that would be the DPW issues. With regard to Mr. Nuzzo, Frank, thank you for being here. The issue, and actually this is for the mayor's office, and it ties in. We had a series of meetings earlier in the year trying to figure out what the administration's position was going to be on with the snow shoveling, the actual enforcement of it. It's hard. ISD has the law in the books. They have to enforce it. That's their job. And that's what they were doing. One of the concerns I had is that we did have a large list of folks that were on the exemption list, and we just want to make sure that it's a feasible ordinance going forward, that we can apply it evenly to everybody. There were circumstances where the city didn't have its own property cleared out, whether they be along parks, different other municipal buildings, and I just wanted to know what was going to be, you know, the mindset going forward as far as enforcement. It kind of feel hypocritical if we're not clearing our property, but then we're going after people for not clearing theirs. So I just wanted to get a sense on what that was going to be, if we were going to kind of scale back until the city stuff is all cleared up before we go out and enforce on private individuals, or just the laws on the book, it's going to be enforced. I know that ISD had the hands full. You did everything you could diligently enforcing a law that this council had passed. I just want to make sure that we're as fair with everybody as we can be. And again, it was an unbelievable winter. Probably one I hope to God we don't see again in our lifetimes, but you never know. They're saying it's going to be another bad winter this year. I'm not looking forward to that. But it is what it is, and I just want to make sure that before we as a city are going out and addressing this with homeowners and business owners, that, you know, we're taking care of business ourselves internally, taking care of our properties. And that's a question I have. And that's really it. So I really don't have any questions for ISD. You're doing your job. And I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, and whatever the direction is, that's being followed. And that's the whole purpose of
Oh, yeah,
these.
without question, and hopefully, I agree with the council, hopefully we do not have a winter even close to anything that was like last winter, but, you know, we would seek to maintain a delicate balance of enforcing the law, but also, I mean, making public safety the first priority. I mean, when you have issues where, you know, particularly with a winter like last year, and you have an elderly waiver, so to speak, or anything, you really want to kind of make sure that, God forbid, an ambulance is needed, they have access to the front stairs at least, or, you know, something along those lines, as opposed to if a city building may be closed or something like that, that maybe you can kind of table it for a little bit. But no, ideally, we want to make sure that, you know, you're right, to avoid the impression of hypocrisy, we want to make sure that we're tending to our own business before we start, you know, forcing people to tend to theirs.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's as far as my interest goes with that. And really my concern is just getting a jump on those issues that tend to be problems
Yeah.
for every community when you're trying to move snow.
No, it's always
with the
best to be
blades low,
proactive,
get those bus
particularly
stops.
after
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah, absolutely. So I appreciate it. I have no other questions. Thank you very much for being here, gentlemen.
Can I just ask you?
Absolutely.
Again, we're gonna be getting into the season, and the ordinance, I know it's a trial period,
Right.
but to follow it, some of the things in there, are we gonna have a chance at the end of the trial period to amend them?
I would think so, because after it's a 2-year trial period. Once we do that, we're gonna see, again, last winter was so difficult to really make it a test year, because it was extreme. So we'll have whatever we've got for information we're able to cull from last winter. Hopefully this one will be a more manageable winter, and then we can see what's working, what's not, and how to address it. But absolutely, I think that, just speaking for myself, I know that the other councilors, obviously, we want to make sure the public safety is number one priority. If we see things at the end of the season, and I think that we should talk at the end of the season, from every department's point of view, see how the ordinance is working, if it's not working on certain things, if it should be changed in different ways, and make it effective, because it's not, I think all of us share the same mindset. We're not trying to punish anyone. We just want people to be courteous. It's just, if you're courteous and you clear your area, guess what? You have no issue. So that's really the bottom line. And I'm more than happy to look at it. I'm sure my colleagues would be more than happy to look at it at the end of the season and get the direct input, because you're seeing it firsthand, and that would be beneficial.
The reason why I bring it up is now we have to issue 2 warnings. We gave out over 300 warnings last year, and then we did that twice, so that's like 600 warnings. That's a lot of
Yeah.
sitting down and
Yeah,
putting the paper
it's
together.
actually, you know, I'm glad you mentioned it, because you brought one more thing to mind. One of the things I don't think we did a very good job of last year was notifying the public of the ordinance. I know there was discussion about putting notice of the ordinance in water bills, tax bills. I never saw that. I know we try to put on ECTV, but you know, if we could, especially in anticipation of the season, if we could put in with the water bills or tax bills notification of the ordinance, that way people are aware of it. Once they're aware of it, they know it. And then it's either you comply or you don't. And I do know you're concerned about the warnings because you're spinning your wheels. You're down there. And I think in many times, it's like one warning went out and before it got out, there was a second warning. So it's a lot of effort. Hopefully, and I think that by and large, people have been decent about being courteous. Most people, I think, do shovel their own properties. Every now and then, there's a case where it isn't, but I do think most people do take the time to do it. And I think that if we get that notification out there to them, hopefully it'll just make that problem go away. But yeah, we probably should definitely look at it after the season, see what's going on, and see what we need to tweak in order to make it more effective.
So for this coming season, we're gonna just stick with the.
It-
That is cool.
Yeah, the way it's written, it's its second test year, because last year really wasn't a good opportunity to test. And I know that puts, it stresses your office, put a little stretch on manpower. But it is the second leg of the trial period, which is the way the council had passed it. And then after that, I think it would be a good thing for everyone to get together, see how it went, and do what we need to.
Things we'd like to present to you, proposals, and hopefully.
Oh, wonderful.
work it.
Absolutely.
But we'll do
Yep.
exactly what we did last year.
Great.
Nothing will be different.
And I'd be more than happy to talk with you, off camera. We can find out what they are. Maybe it's something that might even be able to be incorporated sooner. But, right. Thank you again. I have no other
All
questions.
right, thank you.
Councilman Mangan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, Mr. O'Donnell, congratulations on your appointment.
Thank you,
I know
Council.
this is the first official meeting that you are the chief of staff, but congratulations and best of luck in the position.
Oh, thank you.
Two concerns I had is that, one was, I got just a few phone calls from last year, sometimes, not the city's contractors, but the private contractors that were going out there that were hired by, say, people doing private ways and things like that. Sometimes they were blocking fire hydrants. Sometimes, I know one over on like Arthur Ave and Vernal Street, there was some issues over there, and then there was, I forget, there was a few other places. Do you know what, off the top of your head, what the fine is? If you find a contractor, that for whatever reason doesn't have a lot of area and then pushes and buries in a fire hydrant, do you know what the fine off the top of your head would be
Off
if
the
you
top
caught?
of my head, I don't know, but I mean,
Okay.
it should be, I was,
It's a tough situation. I mean, if they're plowing a street, you mean they should stop when they get to the fire hydrant?
No, what I'm saying is that, Mr. Nuzzo, is that if you have, like, say, for instance, there's a fire hydrant on the corner, and they have really nowhere to push the snow, and they bury the fire hydrant.
Okay.
And so you can't even see the fire hydrant.
I
Now, I know we have
know.
the sticks this year, but last year, the piles were so
the
high.
stick wouldn't make a difference for last
Right.
year, yeah.
We definitely can address that. It's a $300 ticket,
Oh, okay.
and we issued 11 of them last winter.
Oh, okay, that's great to know that. I
And we
didn't
got
know
the
that.
contractors, once we found out who they were or who did it, they came back and it actually cleared the areas.
Okay, and I know sometimes, I've seen it even on Broadway and some of the other main side streets, but once in a while, again, not the city's contractors that they hire, but for instance, if I were to hire somebody to plow my driveway, whatever, they're not always courteous, and they push things out, and then the city's gonna come by. Did you happen to catch people like that last year that weren't, that had nothing to
Yes.
do with the city, that were just individual contractors?
Yes, I think there were 17 tickets issued that we caught. I'm sure there was
Oh,
way
lot
more,
more.
but a lot of times, again, working with the public and this is an educational process that we're doing. We're trying to get everybody used to this. We would just pull over and say, please, stop doing it, push it back into the property. There's plenty of room in these backyards. Then again, it ended up being so bad of a winter that they didn't have anywhere to put it, so.
Right.
It was just a tough situation, but, yeah, when we see that and these guys are driving around, that's what they're looking for. People taking the snow from their yard, plowing them across. Our biggest problem seems to be gas stations, because they wanna clear out the area around their pumps, they don't have much room as it is, and they have a tendency to push it across and bank it up to the area that the city's already plowed. And, we got some that are real cooperative, just they'll clean out their lot, they'll do that, but when they're done, they'll come out and they'll clean up the city property too. And Glendale Square is a perfect example. We've worked pretty well with them down there.
So like, for instance, some of those businesses, you said most likely the gas stations, instead of really doing removal, they're just pushing the snow,
They
to
get
other
it off
areas.
their property and it's going somewhere, and
Okay.
unfortunately, you know where it's going.
Okay. All right, no, that's all I have, and thank you for all the good work you do, and that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Fred, Counsel Fred Capone.
I move that we refer back to sponsor.
I'll second.
Motion made to refer back to sponsor, second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, the ayes have it.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman?
Motion to adjourn the meeting, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, gents.
Congratulations, Kevin.